Tai te kōrero, tai te wānanga, tai te pai wa o kia uru mai rā koutou ki te ore kōrero e tū nei. Tēnei te pō nau mai te ao. E te ao, e te motu, e ngā kārangarangatanga koutou katoa kua ui mai nei, ki tēnei kātu ui, ki te pai wa o, e pā atu nei, tēnā koutou, tēnā katoa tātou. A tēnā tātou i te atua ki o tātou mate, kei te pāpā Chris, e moe. Koutou ki koutou, ko tātou tēnei ko ngā mawetanga i o emi I nei e tangi nei, tēnā katoa tātou. Kia ora everybody, Che Wilson here from Che's channel, Te Pai Waho, and it's Taite Talks. And tonight is our fourth session for season 1. And our Manuhiri tonight is Tipene Cottrell. So introducing Tipene, and I'm going to hand it straight over to you, e hoa. Tipene, nau mai, uru mai ki roto ki te pai waho, ki tēnei papa otanga, kei a koe te wā. Over to you to introduce who you are.
Tēnā koe, Jay, tuatahi, e whakaaro aroha ki te whānau o ngā mate o te pō nei.
Kia ora.
Ko taki timu te waka, ko Ngāti Kahununu te iwi, ko Ngāti Hine Pare ngai tā whāo, Ngāti Māhu o Kuhapu, ko kohu ke te maunga, ko Kaikaura te awa, no whare rangi a hau, ko mana hau te tipuna whare, no ahuriri a hau, ko Tipene Cottrell tōku ingoa. Tēnei te mihi ati kia koutou. Kia ora, Che. Awesome to see you again. It's been a little while since hanging out in your neck of the woods up in Ngāti Rangi, which a lot of the things I get up to now are inspired by you and the time we spend with you. So it's awesome. And listening to the last speakers as well, and following the journey of this new platform of sharing and learning. So mami kia koe.
Yeah, tēnā koe Tipene. And yeah, you remind me of our time at home with the Matariki expression part of Tuia. And the reason why I support Tuia is because it's a chance for me to learn, chance for me to grow, and it's a chance for me to connect in with another generation of people so that they can keep me in check and make sure that I'm trying to stay as relevant as possible. But no, really appreciate you coming on tonight, Tipene. And e te iwi, I met Tipene a couple of years ago as part of a rangatahi program, or a movement actually, a rangatahi movement called Tuia. And I was always impressed with Tipene, but the whole team. And really great to have you on board tonight, Tipene. And want to mihi to the previous speakers as well, to Polly, to Te Kawa, and to the brother Garrett last week, and now to Tipene joining us. So I'm going to hand it straight over to you. It's Taite Talks, and the way Taite Talks works, everybody that's new to this, is I bring in a manuhiri, somebody who follows this program, follows this channel, and invite them in to share some thoughts, ask some questions, and we have a kōrero from there. So kei a koe, Tipene.
Tēnā koe. Yeah, like I said before, we had lots of questions about all sorts of things. I'll hit you up about some of them later. But one of the things that I've been thinking about and just appreciating the sharing, and I think other speakers have acknowledged that as well, the sharing of like yourself, Rangi, people like Marcus, all sorts of people who go around and they share, not everything, but enough to keep us on our journey and learn and grow. And I was wondering with you, as something as well for me, I guess I'm lucky enough to have a few people who share stuff and then not knowing really what to do with it, whether you can share it again or you've got to hold on to it, and whether it's for one person to know or for the many to know, or different groups. And I was just wondering what sort of people that you've had in your life that may have helped bring you up into the person that you've been, and shared some of that mātauranga, whether it be whakapapa about the taiao, like you said, about going out to the bush and reading the bark and stuff like that. And, how have they sort of guided you along what you share and how you share it?
Yeah, tēnā koe. I think about my key teachers, and I had 4 principal teachers, but even the other elders that guided me along my journey, is number one, they gave their kōrero freely. And they gave it with very little restriction. And then the other point is they, once they saw and or heard me use it, they gave me more. And I was encouraged to use it and show them on the marae that I understood what they had given. And if I used it properly, they'd give me more. If I might not have used it in the best way, they'll give me tips. And so I think being fortunate enough to have seen some great examples of not just kōrero tukuiho in action, but also values in action, and taking people on a journey. And when you see that stuff, and you see it so many times, it's easier to practice, even if you start off by mimicking it. But it's easier to practice because it's what you see and what you actually thought was the norm. So yeah, I think when I reflect on those people, I was fortunate enough to see them showing the example in real life, in real time, and that helped for me to not only practice that, but then since they've all passed, also reflect.
Yeah, kia ora, kia ora. Yeah, that's also, I love that sharing freely, and yeah, we have so many people that do that, who do share freely, and yeah, definitely can see a few that continue to share more or not continue to share more, depending on how it's been used, and it can be used really well or used in a not a good way as well. So yeah, kia ora. Yeah, one of the other things I was thinking about, it's a space at the moment that I know I'm not toe on in terms of, I guess some of our wāhi tapu and our kāinga and our whakapapa, or mainly the places really that we have. And I'm in two minds around whether we protect them. Like, no, don't touch it, whether it be some rua kumara or, terraces for kāinga or middens and things like that. And I was just wondering if you had any perspective on maybe how that used to be, back before Europeans came in, and the way we think about our historical sites now.
Yeah, if we start with middens, what's really important about middens is rubbish, eh? So middens are archaeological sites where you will find the rubbish of your ancestors. And so they're usually pits where they threw stuff and buried it. And I think the reason why middens are important in archaeology is that they are they're a glimpse into what the ancestors were using in everyday life. And that's why middens are important to archaeology. For me, middens are just a chance to ketu, to have a look around, to scourge around, and if you get lucky, you get lucky. So that's number one. Number two, the different wāhi tapu and wāhi tupuna, and I was part of the Māori board for Heritage New Zealand that came up with a secondary classification, because it used to just be wāhi tapu, and then we also put in wāhi tupuna. And the thing with wāhi tupuna is sometimes the places we find were just places where our tupuna lived, And though they may be important, but when we place wāhi tapu on everything and anything, if it was a garden and the whānau that have that land want to put another modern version of gardens, I think people need to have the conversation because it aligns to what the use was, and therefore is it appropriate to do it again? And it's too simplistic to give a blanket answer, but it depends on the context, what the issues are, and the significance of who reside in or use those places. It's a bit different of if you look at treaty settlement, sometimes people claim things where you're tipene at a mimi or stub their toe and saying, oh, no, I have mana whenua here. Whereas I know how many times I've pulled over on the side of the road because I've been busting, and I don't think it's appropriate for me to claim those places. But it's about context. Is there a future use? Is that use appropriate? And how you take your people again, how you take your people on that journey to identify what's best for the land and for the people. I'm not sure if I answered that for you.
No, you did. There's lots to think about because I know I'm on the I've been on the other side, or at this stage in my life I'm on the other side where I protect it because I know the feeling of going there, and as a person who hasn't grown up in Te Ao Māori, but I guess learning about our sites and how I connect to it and then take people there and see their connections to it. I feel that their connection, and you can see it when they go there and see it and hear the kōrero. So I'm definitely on the other side at the moment. So I'm trying to balance that. Today we had an example where we were digging up our rua kumara, and the archaeologists were there and that sort of stuff. And I was so sad. I was like, no, don't do it. But it's good for Cottrell to think about because it's at the end of the day, it's not there. But I know my connection to it and how I feel when I go to see Artinana as well. And
and the most important thing around connection is maintaining the connection, no matter what. I know there's this one paddock which is grazed now, which is hugely significant to me and my family, to our movement, and to the Ratana Church. And the use is different now, but massively important, and it's about how you keep the kōrero alive. And I think that's the most important thing. The other thing is you raised a point about not being raised in Te Ao Māori. Do you want to talk to us about your journey and how you've got into all of this other stuff now?
Yeah, I guess, made up of a few different bloodlines, but brought up in our, at our papakainga next to our marae. And I've always had this connection to the marae. We had to mow the marae lawns and all that sort of stuff, and weed all the gardens all the time. And not many of us doing it, but my brother and I remember us doing that a lot, and always had this connection. But we didn't have anyone with the reo around us. A lot of our whānau moved to Ratana. And just want to acknowledge also too the passing of Nigel Hamahuna down there, who was about to help carve out which we're doing at the moment. So we're closely related to them down there. So a lot moved away, and other whānau to other areas, and obviously the urban drift and all that sort of stuff. So had that connection, but our marae wasn't really functioning. Like, it wasn't a functional marae. We didn't have many things happening and that sort of stuff. And it wasn't until I went away around the motu with this papatuia, where I started to see all these other people who were doing similar things, or had dreams and visions that I sort of had as well, of being on it at our marae and it thriving and having a whare again and all those sorts of things. And meeting people like you and Marcus and everyone that we come across, Ruakere, and hearing this kōrero and going, whoa, far out, this is who I am, not here in this place, but at my own home. I have this kōrero, I have these tipene, I have these stories these connections to place, to people, to the bush, to the sea, which is not something I was sort of brought up with besides farming and that sort of practice, I guess, that sort of connection. And it wasn't until someone showed me, I remember it, it was with you actually. We were at a lake, going to one of the lakes at Ruapehu, and Marcus showed me how to open up a manuka seed. And I was, yeah, he opened up this manuka seed and he's like, look, there's 100 trees in the seed. And he talks about the apple, and it's not about how many seeds are in the apple, it's about how many apples are in the seed. The trees are in the seeds. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. I could grow a tree. Wow. So I grew these trees and I couldn't believe it. They all grew. And that meant to another tree and a different type of tree. And suddenly I didn't know any trees. And now I knew gradually all these extra trees, and then learning stories about mahuika and how Maui had dodged the flame and went into these raka, and now we're like starting fires with this, with these raka. Tōtara and the 5 raka, I was like, whoa, these are the kōrero that we still have in our stories that I didn't see before, but through those small connections of seeing it and go, whoa, this is cool. And I guess that was the drive for wanting to learn more, which moves on to the language within those stories, within everything. And yeah, sort of sparked it to being able to go around the motu. But it was also almost a sad way to learn about myself, was to go out to all these places around the motu and then realize, that home was so special. But I'm glad it happened that way.
Well, and I think sometimes it's just meant to be, eh?
Yeah.
Because as frustrating as it can be sometimes for both people learning, teaching, and or trying to maintain or revive, we're ready when we're ready. And when the consciousness sparks the flame, if you allow that flame to ignite and grow, then you can do some pretty amazing things. Anyway, yeah, thank you for sharing that, Tipene. Talk to me. What's another question? Because I know you said you had quite a few, but we won't go too long. But yeah, what's a couple more questions?
Yeah. There's so many going around, eh? I guess, yeah, one of the things, like with one of the things I've been thinking about, and there's been a lot of kōrero about, the maramataka and, all these different versions, and and there's now materials that are made up and they're given, and, they've piloted out to schools, and, you get this one version and that's what you learn, and that's the kōrero. I guess, what's your advice, for us locally, I guess, to better connect and, understand our own. I know you've talked about it a little bit before, but understand our own maramataka, and maybe 2 or 3 things that we could do today or tomorrow to go out and connect to that better. Maybe a couple of things that we could do.
Yeah, I think number one, where you can find a local maramataka, start there, and then record your own observations, because that will help you to it'll help you to get to the right place. It'll get you to the right place to then start making things adapt to your local situation. And that's why there's difference, is because number one, if you're on the East Coast as opposed to the West Coast, it's going to set at a different time. Number two, depending on what the key geographical features are, you might not see some things. And depending on the angle, the moon will look slightly different in Invercargill to Kaitaia. And similarly, Mahia and Parihaka. And that's because of the changes in longitude and latitude between those 4 examples. And so things are going to look slightly different. It's no different to when you go up to the Northern Hemisphere. For us, everything's back to front. And when they come to us, everything's back to front for them. You know, whether that's the stars or even the water in a basin. And a toilet, when you flush the toilet or you pull the plug and the water goes down, it goes down different ways depending on which and so, you know, just the moon's not the moon, the different places we are in the world, and no different to the different places we are here in Aotearoa and Te Waipounama. There will be subtle variations that we have to just adapt to. And so that's why I encourage people to make their own observations so that you can get to the right space. And it will then become a taonga for your mokopuna. And I actually think the best taonga is in those first couple of years of trial and error. Because we always look at the perfect example, which is often put into a book, when actually I think there's just as much learning in the trial and error, because, you know, all of the manuscripts you read, people wait until they've got it sussed before they start writing. Whereas I think the more that you can see that your tupuna was human rather than the mantis, it just helps you get a better perspective on who your tupuna was, and therefore who you are or who we are.
Well, the last question I was thinking about, it's been cool learning about the manu from you and others, and observing them and watching them. But yeah, what's your favorite bird and how come?
I don't think I have a favorite bird. I love seeing birds, and I will be focused more in on, depending on where I am, as to what blessings they are giving me for that moment, what potential warnings they might be giving me, and or I suppose there are some birds that I look at and I often go, I wonder what you tasted like. So yeah, I don't think I have a favorite bird, though I do love the sound of the kereru as it flies. I do love the movement of the tiwaiwaka, and I think the rudu is really, really cute. Just how it moves, its head and its eyes, and then a really good full tui is also quite stunning, especially when you see that greeny blue, because it looks black, and then depending on how the light shines on it, you'll see a greeny tinge or a bluey tinge, and so all of those different things I think are pretty stunning. Yeah. Kapai. Oh well, Tipene, really good to have you on tonight. I've got one final question for you. Have you got any tips for people that are exploring and on their journey to find out more about themselves?
Yeah, I think if you just trust that it'll come to you, whatever you're searching for, and you surround yourself with people that you know and you trust are looking after you, and they're there to look after you and what they're sharing with you, and and just carry on. It doesn't matter how much you know. It doesn't matter if you can do this or do that yet, and and you'll find your niche, whatever it is. You'll find your purpose, and you'll be able to get onto that path and try and stay to it and carry on,
Sure.
and just keep finding those people who know and align yourself with them, and like you say, just share it, because it's the best way to. Well, it's definitely a way that I remember things about different things, and
Yeah.
share it.
Well, and just on that, to wrap us up, share, and when you learn something, try and do it as quick as possible. Try and do it straight away, because then that helps embed that knowledge, which is why the old will always encourage you to stand up, too, so that you can practice it straight away, and it embeds into the noggin a bit quicker. Makati, tipene, me ora ngā kau, I wakai mai koe kia uru mai ki roto ki tēnei kaupapa. Nō reira tēnā koe. Everybody, great to have you on board tonight, and we will be back on Tuesday for co-host sessions, and then on Thursday for Taite talks, and we'll see who our manuhiri is next week. Tēnei ka mihi atu kia koutou katoa I roto I tēnei pō. Kei te pāpā Chris, e moe, e oke, kei te waene e ani, aere atu rā, tu ono atu kōrua ki te iwi nei. Kōrua koutou kia koutou, tātou ngā mauetangi o e mii nei, e tangi nei, I roto I tēnei pō, rire au, pai mārire.
Kia ora, Jake.
Kia ora.